Welcome to the Resistance.
Hey Xers, welcome back to Gen X Resistance. We're here to navigate the digital world through the unique Gen X lens. Now, I don't know if you remember, but I sure do, when we were warned about the brain-rotting effects of TV and video games. Well, now we're the adults and we're the parents, and TikTok is under scrutiny. Now, are we just repeating history, or is there really something genuinely new to worry about? So today, I'm going to try to tackle the TikTok debate. Now, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. Are we going too far, or we're not going far enough? And with Trump's administration potentially eyeing a 90-day extension for TikTok, what's the real deal? Is that even possible? So if you've opened up your TikTok app today, you'll find a message prompting you to close the app. And the app has got everyone from governments and parents into a tizzy. Is it the new digital scary boogeyman, or are we overhyping the risks? I don't know if TikTok is a Chinese psyop with the intent of stealing our data or propagandizing our youth, but I will say that our own government needs to take a real long look in the mirror given what we learned about some of the shenanigans that surrounded COVID, as well as some of the authoritarian actions that were perpetrated on U.S. citizens by its own government. And all of that was fueled by a bunch of misinformation. That's a podcast for another time. So let's take a step back, reflect on our own youth, and see if history is repeating itself. You may remember the days when TV was the devil and video games were the gateway to the societal downfalls. You know, it's like we've come full circle, but with different names, different twists. And I'm talking about you, Satanic Panic of the 1980s, who persecuted poor nerds just trying to play D&D in their mom's basement. In the words of King Solomon in Ecclesiastes 1:9, that which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. So TikTok has taken the world by storm since its launch in 2016, particularly among the younger crowd, my son included. And its format, it really changed the way that we consume media, making it all about a quick, digestible content. But let's face it, this isn't the first time a new form of media has scared the pants off of us. Back then, TV, MTV, video games were the culprits. Now it's TikTok with its algorithms tailored to keep you scrolling. That has become the new frontier. But why the backlash? Well, with over 1 billion users, its influence is undeniable. Concerns over addiction, data privacy, and the platform's Chinese ownership by ByteDance, all of that has sparked these debates. Now, I'm going to sound like an old TV detective or a Scooby-Doo cartoon looking for a motive, but let me ask you a question. Who benefits if TikTok vanishes? Could it be the likes of, I don't know, American companies like YouTube or Instagram? I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids. And they may just. So, rewind, let's take a moment to remember the moral panic of our youth. TV was going to turn us all into zombies. Video games were supposed to make us violent. Does any of that sound familiar? It's the same rhetoric that's being recycled with TikTok, accused of shortening attention spans and affecting mental health. And look, I'm not saying that it isn't, but I think given our history of overreaction, I think it's okay to be skeptical. A 2019 study by the University of California in Irvine found that video games could actually enhance certain cognitive skills, challenging that old narrative. And similarly, while there is talk about TikTok's impact on attention, we are still waiting for a lot more concrete evidence to support that. Now, our parents didn't understand the digital landscape that we grew up in. Are we making the same mistake with TikTok? I mean, it's worth questioning. It's worth pondering. That's who we are as Gen Xers, right? We question things. We don't always take things at face value. And certainly not from the legacy media or the government. nobody in the history have ever said, you know what would make things better? The government. So let's dive in a little bit into the psychological impact. There is research suggesting that heavy social media use like TikTok can lead to increased anxiety, depression. Now, all of this is according to a 2020 study in the Journal of Adolescent Health. But look, it's not just TikTok. It's a whole gamut of things wrapped up in that. So are we punishing one platform? And does it sound like an echo of exactly what we heard about video games? And on the social front, there is fear that kids are missing out on real life experiences. And I do believe that there's some truth to that. But didn't we hear the same thing about our generation? The key is balance and understanding. Maybe not demonizing or singling out a specific or particular platform. And again, I'm not advocating for or against TikTok. I'm just asking questions. So what's the deal with these bans? I think privacy concerns are real. I don't always disagree with the government's scrutiny on ByteDance for its potential data sharing with the Chinese government. But outright bans? What is the potential that could happen is they may push users to less regulated platforms anyway. And I don't think that solves the core issue of digital addiction or privacy. So are we overreacting? Well, that's debate rages on. But one thing's clear. A ban may not be the silver bullet that we think it is. So the ownership by ByteDance, the Chinese connection, I'm not talking about the 1972 film with Bruce Lee, it has fueled fears about data privacy and surveillance. And a report from the Wall Street Journal revealed that ByteDance employees accessed U.S. user data, raising a bunch of red flags. Yet, without definitive proof of misuse by the Chinese government, I'm not saying they did or they didn't, some of those fears may be based more upon the potential of what could happen rather than what has happened. Now, I do believe that we should be cautious about foreign governments using any of our data, but I believe the same thing about our own government and these other American platforms that seem to have our best interests at heart. Everything these days are algorithm driven. So we need to be vigilant, but also critical about how much these fears are politically driven versus how much are based on actual risk. So what's the role of parents and the government in this digital age? For parents, it's pretty simple. It's engagement, not just restriction. A study from Pew Research Center 2021 showed that parents who discuss social media with their kids tend to have a healthier online behaviors in their children. Now, as for the government, rather than bans, perhaps there should be a push for better data transparency and privacy protections across every platform, not just TikTok. So here's the Gen X approach. How do we find balance? Well, education is the key. We didn't understand these platforms just like we had to learn about the internet back in the day. Moderation is another lesson from our youth, setting limits and promoting offline activities. And communication, it's not just about laying down the law, but also having open, honest discussions about digital life. It's about guiding, not always dictating. So as we wrap up, let's remember the lessons from our past. The TikTok debate isn't just about one app. It's about how we navigate the digital world. Are we overreacting? What's the path forward? Now, I want to hear from you. So if you want to, you can drop me a line at my email. That's genxresistance@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. So thanks for tuning in to Gen X Resistance. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, share with your fellow Gen Xers. Let's keep challenging the status quo together. Keep skepticism alive. And remember, stay rad, my friends. Catch you in the next episode.